Washington is still reeling from the circus that played out on Capitol Hill yesterday. Former Trump campaign manager Corey Lewandowski's appearance before the House Judiciary Committee, the first hearing of its impeachment inquiry, was meant to be a moment for Democrats to bolster their argument that President Trump obstructed justice. Instead, it really devolved into quite a mess, and Lewandowski took Democrats for a wild ride. He refused to answer some questions. He mocked Democrats. He promoted a possible Senate run in New Hampshire, but he did make one significant admission. He confirmed that President Trump asked him to pressure then Attorney General Jeff Sessions to take control of the Russia investigation, and Lewandowski did not follow that order.
Either you were willing to break the law for politics and Mr. Trump, or you're some kind of a Forrest Gump relating to corruption. So maybe let me ask you this. Did the president pick you as enforcer? He thought you would play whatever role he wanted because it was illegal? Is that possibly why he chose you to take this message to Sessions?
That'd be a question for the president, Congressman.
This has been more obstruction of Congress by this administration, and you followed their instructions, and you're doing just exactly what they thought you'd do. You are a loyal soldier. Except you didn't follow Trump's instructions. You chickened out at the last minute. You got cold feet.
Congressman Steve Cohen is the person who was just questioning Lewandowski there. He's with us now. And Congressman, thank you so much for talking to us it feels like the aftermath of this hearing yesterday. There is this aftermath. And I was watching this yesterday with legal experts, longtime political watchers, and they all wanted to know how the committee didn't see this approach coming, how the committee wasn't better prepared for this approach by Lewandowski, who was appearing under subpoena and is, quite frankly, known for being petulant.
We knew he was going to be petulant. We knew he was an enforcer and a thug, and we knew he would try to protect the president and run for the Senate in New Hampshire. That's what he did. We were prepared. I was prepared. I think a lot of our members hit him with really good questions. Luke Correa asked him about not reporting to the FBI the interactions with Carter Page when they knew about them, and how he didn't do that. The congressman from Washington, she was fantastic. Eric Swalwell was good. We had lots of good questioning, and I think we did a good job in hitting him, and Barry Burke tore him apart. He was shown to be a liar. He obstructed Congress live and in person, and he showed us how Trump tried to obstruct justice through his enforcer in his previous history of working around Bob Ney, a corrupt congressman, and fraudulent activities toward voting that got him kicked off.
You mentioned Barry Burke. He was the committee attorney, and he was very effective. But why did the committee wait so long, the last half hour of a hearing that lasted several hours, to bring him out and actually get somewhere in the questioning of Lewandowski?
I'm not sure, but I think that's traditionally the way the questioning goes, is that the counsel is the cleanup hitter. I think he had much of his...
Do you wish that he had come out sooner? Are you going to rethink that for future hearings? Because he's the one who got Lewandowski to admit that he doesn't feel obligated to tell the truth to the media, and he also zeroed in on why Lewandowski didn't deliver Trump's message to Sessions, which is something that members of Congress were not able to get at.
Well, I think that he had that on tape, and that could have been shared with a member of Congress to have asked that question earlier, which maybe it should have been. It wasn't absolutely necessary that he go first. I think what was more necessary is that the news media covered the whole hearing and maybe had been prepared for the 30 minutes of hearing that Barry Burke was going to be involved in, because we knew that was going to be a sequential hearing that was so important, the type of riveting cross-examination that caused Bill Barr not to show up at our committee and to be given the appropriate title or of Chicken Barr. He chickened out and he wouldn't face Barry Burke.
Sir, the news media covered this hearing. But if
the news media covered it at the beginning. The news media covered it live at the beginning.
The news media covered quite a bit of this hearing, as you know. This was very long, 6 hours long. And if you know, knowing as you do as well about what you would want to emphasize, and this is the case in anything, don't you put the good stuff up front? So why wouldn't you consider a different approach for a witness who's going to be very different?
I think it's going to be considered. Several members have mentioned that. We communicate with each other through texts, and that's been part of the discussion this morning. It may or may not happen in the future, or maybe be broken up in a different way. Barry Burke was strong. But I do think the media should have covered it. And of course, as it turned out, it showed the fact that he thought lying to the media was not consequential, and he did it all the time because he said the media lies.
I am going to take issue with that because the media did cover this, and that soundbite, which Barry Burke was able to bring out from Lewandowski, has been all over television everywhere today. But nonetheless, let me ask you about this. I mean, I would actually beg to differ and say that it's more effective that it's repeated over and over and zeroed in on versus.
Brianna, I'm not going to want to get into it because you're my friend and I like CNN. But the fact is, if that's the case, then Barry Burke doesn't have to be first. Being last and getting repeated on the news for the last 18 hours worked just as effectively.
Except that instead you had Democrats who did not look very good. I mean, you may take issue with that, but Democrats did not. They looked flat-footed from the jump. I do want to ask you, though, this strategy of letting the Mueller report be animated by testimony of people involved in all of this, like Lewandowski, do you think it's backfiring?
I don't think it backfired at all, and I think that it was Congressman Jayapal, Congressman Cicilline, several in Korea, and I would submit myself and others did, I think, outstanding jobs. And if you look at the public response on Twitter, they thought so too. There were some beginnings where it stumbled, and Doug Collins and running for Trump's recommendation to be senator from Georgia got a lot of time, and he battled with Nadler, and that was unfortunate, and they got some time there. I think we should have held him in contempt on the spot and inherent contempt, but that's something we haven't done. But as far as the proceedings, I think we were successful. We're showing how they obstructed justice, obstructed Congress in live time, and how they lie and lie constantly and lie with the thought if they don't raise their hand to God, as Lewandowski says, is when he doesn't lie. If he's not under oath, he's just out there fabricating just like his boss, Donald Trump.
All right, Congressman Steve Cohen, thank you so much for joining us from Capitol Hill.
You're welcome, Brianna, and I still love you.
All right, sir.